Did the recording. Oh, no problem, no problem. I'm sorry, I had forgotten to start the recording. That's okay. It's a very fast session anyway. कितना हुआ? 8:32 हुआ है. I can't go back again. It would be too much. That's okay. Uh, so the main point is the Krishna who matters to us is the eternal incarnation of the divine, and not the historical teacher and leader of man. Right? Um, what else? Again, he says here that the working of Krishna, how he works in the life of Arjuna, Pandavas. Basically, he's guiding as a secret guide. People don't even know that he's the one who is controlling everything, but he's the one who is controlling. Similarly, this is the way the divine works in our consciousness and in the world's workings. We do not know that it is the divine who is doing everything. We do not realize this. Symbolic symbol of divine dealings. One second. Somebody should have. Anyway, thus the figure of Krishna becomes, as it were, the symbol of the divine dealings with humanity. Through our egoism and ignorance, we are moved, thinking that we are the doers of the work, wanting of ourselves as the real causes of the result, and that which moves us, we see only occasionally as some vague or even some human principle and earthly fountain of knowledge, aspiration, force, etc., etc. So, like this, that they don't realize. And it's only at the battlefield of Kurukshetra that Krishna reveals who he truly is to Arjuna. And he's shocked. And he basically, okay, my God, I was behaving with you like a friend and all that. Please forgive me. All that is there. Right. So, what is the main this thing in this? The idea that even though we do not know, because we are in the ego, we are in the ignorance, it is the divine who is doing everything. And he is using everything as his instrument to further his purpose. Essentially, this is what he's saying here. Okay. Yeah. Hmm. In the next chapter, the human disciple, Arjuna. So, the
Anmol,
word
do you want to read
Arjuna.
the last line of the chapter like you did for the first chapter, or it's not a significance for every
No, no, no,
chapter
no,
to?
no, 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 no. I can do it. Let's see what is there in that. Uh, the teacher of the Gita is therefore not only the God in man who unveils himself in the word of knowledge, but the God in man who moves our whole world of action, by and for whom all our humanity exists and struggles and labors, towards whom all human life travels and progresses. He is the secret master of works and sacrifice and the friend of the human peoples. The last sentence is referring to 5.29 of the Gita. Yeah. Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam jnatva mam shantim richati. Right. So, but yeah. So, Arora ji, बोलिए.
This last sentence is very, very significant on the subject which you just about 5 minutes back you referred.
Yes.
That liberation from the death and life
Yeah.
is not the aim.
Yes.
Look at
Because,
this is
see,
so
because,
categorical.
initially, when you chose to come into the cycle of births, you were free and you made that conscious choice yourself. Then why did you do it? You cannot say that the purpose of coming here is to be free from here because you came here of your own sweet will.
That's
So
what
that
I am
cannot be the purpose.
saying. I am just supporting what is said earlier.
Yes.
I thought there was another aspect which at that stage I thought I would have. See, in Gita given to the Arjuna and in the battlefield, and similar teachings and have been given to Yudhishthir after the war when he became despondent that I can't be the ruler after killing so many people.
Yeah.
The similar kind of sadness.
Okay.
Here he says in that Mahabharata, this part of Mahabharata, Gita is a part of Mahabharata unless there is some interpolation.
Okay.
And no, he convinces him in the more or less similar volumes of the chapters that you have to rule. This is your
right.
Your nature and this is your duty. Not only so many words, same thing.
Yes. Yes.
But and at the end of or before the departure of Krishna from the historical Krishna,
Yeah.
Uddhava, his friend and his
cousin,
relation, He says all the works are finished. Now you go to Bhadrakash.
Yeah, see, it's according to the जो वो soul है ना, its a stage of evolution, its line of development, its role in the world. It's according to that that the guidance is given. It's not
Correct.
something mechanical, that one
So,
single rule for everybody. That is not the case.
correct. So all these things have to be seen in
Yes,
an integrated manner.
yes,
So
yes,
that
yes.
this mukti and moksha and all these things
Yeah,
are I will say it's wrongly interpreted in last, let us say, 100.
yeah. That's why we will come to it. Why those partial understandings of the
So
Gita.
once you read this sentence, after that, where is the doubt?
Exactly.
All right. Thank you.
No problem. So, in the human disciple, Arjuna, basically, he tells about the nature of the disciples and basically all the questions, most of the questions asked by Arjuna in the Gita, Sri Aurobindo mentions in this essay itself. Okay, something unusual. Normally in the commentaries, the questions are raised as this goes, but Sri Aurobindo almost all his questions वो उसको पूरे इसी में describe कर देते हैं. Now the word Arjuna, okay, just as Krishna meaning dark वो होता है, but Krishna meaning attractor. The word Arjuna literally means white. That's what it literally means, right? So he says here, this to understand कि who is a fit recipient of the Gita. यहाँ पे वो क्या है? So he says, how does Arjuna justify his name? Justify. Yeah. Arjuna is in the language of the Gita, a man subject to the action of the three gunas, etc. He justifies his name only in being so far pure and sattvic. The color of the sattva guna is white. For Rajas is red, for Tamas is black. This is a verse in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, one of the major Upanishads. He justifies his name only in being so far pure and sattvic as to be governed by high and clear principles and impulses and habitually control his lower nature by the noblest law which he knows. This is one of the reasons which makes him fit to get this teaching. Most important reason is, this is not the most important reason. The most important reason is, this is there in the Bengali writings of Sri Aurobindo on the Gita, this phrase, complete faith and self-surrender. Therein he says that this person was great in this regard, Vidura, Karna, Bhishma, Yudhishthira, Dhritarashtra, all that. But why is it that the Gita was given only to Arjuna? The answer is there in the Gita itself in the beginning of the 4th chapter. Bhakto sime sakha cheti rahasyam hetad uttamam. Because you are my bhakta. Being a bhakta, you have complete faith and self-surrender towards me. Bhakto sime sakha cheti. And you are my friend. Something very practical again. Become friends with the divine. Have that attitude that the divine is my best friend. He alone is my, complete friend who will be there throughout all lifetimes. All other friendships are in that sense temporary. So Hridam Sarva Bhutanam. He's not just my friend, he's the friend of everybody, like that. So practically, Bhakto sime sakha cheti rahasyam hetaduttamam. Because you are my bhakta and my sakha. That is why I am revealing this great secret to you. Very clearly, he says. Right? बाकी इसमें जो सबसे important point है in this chapter, it is this, that Arjuna is a man of action. He is not the thinker or sage. He is not a philosophical kind of person, not at all. He is basically a Rajasic person who is governed by Sattvic ideals, right? And he's a man of action. He wants what to do, he's saying. He's a normal man, practical man, right? So that is why he has been chosen कि पूरा जो गीता का wisdom है throughout, even in the last chapter again he says, have you understood? Are you going to do what I am saying to you? Like that he says. So the objective of the Gita is very clear. It is to make him fight. The objective is very clear. All this divine teaching and this, but if he does not fight, it all goes, it's all useless. What does it mean? It means that this world has a purpose. मैंने वो एक quotation share किया था on the group, wherein Sri Aurobindo says that the work done by Krishna at that time, the political consolidation, some people think wrongly. They think that Krishna disturbed the balance of India by creating the Mahabharata war. On the contrary, Sri Aurobindo explains there that because the Kshatriya power had become so asuric and it was the worst of all history, that is why they had to be eliminated. Otherwise, India would have fallen to the barbarian much earlier. It took 2000 years or more for Alexander to come and to be able to succeed somewhat, right? So that political objective, that material objective is there. And why I am saying this? Because in the Indian mind, this idea regarding yoga so strong that is world का कोई मतलब नहीं है, Maya, Mithya, Moha, all those ideas are still very strong because of Shankaracharya. So that is not what the Gita is telling, not at all, not at all, not at all. The Gita is telling you to station yourself in the divine consciousness and from there do whatever the divine is asking you to do. That is the aim. Nivasishyasi mayi eva. Somebody can take that as the aim of the Gita, to dwell in the divine consciousness. So basically, again, it has to be taken its entirety. It's very, one has to, it's not an easy book. I'm telling you, it's not an easy book. I don't want to discourage anybody, but it's a very, very profound book. And to see it in its entirety, it can take years and years of study, perhaps even a whole lifetime. And then even then you may not get the complete picture. Uska thought ऐसे winding motion में चलता है, कभी कुछ emphasize करेंगे, कभी कुछ करेंगे, then he goes back and then he completes, and like this. It's not an easy, and this is why, one should not be too unsympathetic towards people who gave a partial understanding of Gita. It is a difficult text. It's a very, very profound text. And the
Anmol, the
justice can
point
be
that
done
you
to it
raised,
only if you see it in its entirety.
Anmol, the point that you raised, that the reason it was given to Arjun because he exhibited complete faith and complete self-surrender.
Yes.
So the action, if you really think about it, for divinity, because when you meet a human being who stands for a just and a divine cause and he exhibits that quality, that means he's giving it to him because there is complete self-surrender. That concept that, my Lord, it is you who's doing this. Complete self-surrender and complete faith that, at the end of the day, there is a superpower, there is my Lord, and he is all powerful. So for transformation to come in nature, these two aspects are the most important, because the moment you don't have self-surrender, you become a separate ego-conscious power. So he doesn't want divinity there, right? But the fact that if you don't believe that there is divinity and magic and mystical energy, automatically you don't rise above the three gunas, right? So I feel that is the reason why it is for transformation of material world, because the moment these two happen in a devotee, then the Lord can play and use him as an instrument. So very beautiful point that you mentioned of the Bengali text, that it is complete self-surrender and complete
faith and self-surrender. This is the main reason. And if one has to basically derive benefit or become a adhikari for the teaching of the Gita, this is the necessary adhikara. Having that complete faith and that complete self-surrender towards Krishna, and having that attitude कि he's my Lord and I am his sakha, that friend, it is given to a friend and a devotee like that. So basically becoming, and if you are friend with somebody, you don't have very reverent and this and that, you can take it easy. But that is necessary. That sort of inner intimacy with the divine, it is necessary to be able to understand the Gita properly. We have to be like Arjuna in order to understand the Gita properly. Essentially, this is what he's saying. Right?
Makes absolute sense. Thank you.
Yeah. No, welcome. So I'm not reading the last para of this. It's long also and not necessary. The main idea is that it is given to a man of action. Okay. And the aim of the Gita is not to liberate everybody from the world ultimately and puri dunya ko khali kar de. Nothing is left. That is not the aim. The aim is divine working in this world, becoming an instrument of the divine consciousness. The next chapter is actually the most important in this summary. So I'll come to that now. That's called the core of the teaching. Okay. Most important chapter. Even though initially the recording did not start and we lost that first chapter ka summary, doesn't matter. What is most important is there in this chapter, in all that we have read in the 7 so far. Okay. So in this chapter, like this, there are sort of, you can say, 4 chapters of summary in the book. 4. So this is there. Another is called Gist of the Karma Yoga. That's the last chapter of the first part, series 1. And towards the end, the message of the Gita, which summarizes the entire book, the 48th and final essay, and the one before that. So there are like 4 sort of summary chapters, like that. This is the one most important in the what we have read so far. Okay. Here he makes some very, very important clarification.
Anmol, I have a question, please.
Yeah, please.
Just now you said that the divine, the Krishna, the God, or whatever you may say, is your sakha. Okay?
Yeah.
You said it's
regard him as your sakha, as your friend.
Regarding it with complete surrender and faith, but at the same time, He is your Sakha. So
Yeah.
with Sakha,
We do have a natural trust in our friends, no? That way.
you have natural trust, but sometimes you have those arguments also, which could be a
Basically, what I mean by the
internal
word
dialogue
sakha is
with
that
your.
inner intimacy, that inner camaraderie, that rapport. That is
I
what I
understand.
mean.
I understand what you're saying,
Ji.
but at the same time, we can also have that inner
Correct. Correct. So
arguments.
Arjuna is
Why is
arguing with
this
Krishna all
happening?
the time. He's questioning him all the time.
Exact. Oh
Fourth
yes,
chapter में
yes,
मतलब when you read it, you will find it almost
yes.
scandalous. अरे अपरम भवतो जन्म परम जन्म विवस्वतः कथम एतद् विजानीयाम त्वमादौ प्रोक्तवान इति. The sun god was born so long ago. You are born
Yeah.
now. What is it you are doing? उसके पहले थर्ड चैप्टर में बोलता है don't give me this confused word. यामिश्रेणे ववाक्येन बुद्धिं मोहयसीव में. By this mixed भगवान को बोल रहा है कि तुम ये जो मिश्रित वाणी कर रहे हो उससे मुझे कंफ्यूज कर रहे हो भैया मुझे
Confusion
क्लियरली
हो रही
बताओ.
है.
So he is very मतलब ही इज वेरी ऑडेशियस इन हिज क्वेश्चंस. उसमें कोई ये रिस्पेक्ट नहीं है. ही इज अ प्रॉपर आर्यन. जो मेरे को नहीं समझ में आ रहा, आई वांट द ट्रूथ, गिव मी द क्लियर ट्रूथ एंड क्लियर टीचिंग. डोंट गिव मी अ मिंगल्ड वर्ड. ऑफ कोर्स इट्स अ रिटन बुक एंड ऑल, बट अर्जुना इज वेरी मतलब ब्लंट इन हिज क्वेश्चंस टू कृष्णा. And
उस
why
टाइम
he's getting that audacity? Because he is his close friend. He is his devotee. That is why he's daring to ask such questions. एंड इट इज इंपॉर्टेंट. अगर ये क्वेश्चन ही का फ्रीडम ले लिया जाए कि जो एकदम जेन्युइन क्वेश्चन है वी आर नॉट अलाउड टू आस्क देम, देन वी कैन नॉट ग्रो. इट्स एज सिंपल एज दैट. No guru should be there who is not able to answer your questions. There are no wrong questions or wrong this thing. There are only the inability to answer them. This much should be clear to anybody. Right? So, yeah, all that is there.
But at that time, Krishna was in a physical form in front of
Yes. Yes.
Arjuna.
Yes.
Today we are just, we don't have
That
that.
same Krishna is within you. That eternal incarnation is within you. That is one of the most important points of the essays on the Gita.
Yeah,
वो
yeah,
भगवान जो वो
yeah,
सातवें आसमान में बैठे हैं वो ठीक है. वो जब मिलेंगे समाधि में परब्रह्म जो भी है. But the one who is nearest to you in your own heart, who is your constant
So you
companion.
can have
Nara and Narayana are the words that
companion.
he uses. So Narayana is the eternal companion of the Nara. Right? Narayana, the word can be taken as the journey of the Nara. So it is that
So
Krishna
इसका
is within
मतलब
you.
हम भगवान से नाराज भी हो सकते हैं.
कुछ भी हो सकते हैं. All the liberties you can take only with the divine, not with any human being. Yeah? Okay. So core of the teaching, जो fourth chapter है इसका, I'll read the last two paragraphs because they are the most important. They give the steps and all. But before that, one second. Yeah. So one thing which he says here clearly, one misconception regarding the Gita, which he clears, it's a very popular misconception, that the Gita teaches the disinterested performance of duties. Okay? Even in families, we will find, what does the Gita tell? कर्तव्य करो, माँ बाप की सेवा, this, that, समाज की सेवा, यही करना है और कुछ नहीं है. गीता यही सिखाती है. गीता ये नहीं सिखाती है. Sri Aurobindo says this is a European misreading, the European mind's misreading of a thoroughly Oriental teaching or Indian teaching. Gita का जो primary focus है, the Gita, and there he gives the examples of three people: Buddha, Ramakrishna, and Vivekananda. Was it Buddha's duty to govern the Shakya state and to look after his wife and his 1-year-old son, or to follow his spiritual aspiration and become the Buddha? Vivekananda, his father had passed away, and the family basically were struggling even to get 2 square meals. What does he do? Does he learn law or this or that and support the family, or he becomes Vivekananda? Ramakrishna's example is a little more difficult. He teaching vernacular to children in a disinterested way. No, it is to follow their inner calling, and the Gita would fully support them. And therein comes one of the most powerful ideas given in this chapter, that ये वाला, it's worth reading this paragraph. Very, very important. Listen quietly. The modern mind has exiled from its practical motive power the two essential things: God or the eternal, and spirituality or the God state, which are the master conceptions of the Gita. It lives in humanity only, and the Gita would have us live in God. This is what the Gita wants. Again, I'll read this from the beginning. Okay. The modern mind has exiled from its practical motive power the two essential things: God or the eternal, and spirituality or the God state, which are the master conceptions of the Gita. The modern mind lives in humanity only. Humanitarian ideas, philanthropic ideas, all that is fine in its place. But that is not the main thing. Certainly not of the Gita. It lives in humanity only, and the Gita would have us live in God, though for the world in God, in its life, heart, and intellect only. And the Gita would have us live in the spirit, in the mutable being who is all creatures. Ksharah Sarvani Bhutani, 15th chapter mein aayega. And the Gita would have us live also in the immutable Akshara and the Supreme, Purushottama. In the changing march of time, and the Gita would have us live in the eternal. Or if these higher things are now beginning to be vaguely envisaged, it is only to make them subservient to man in society. But God and spirituality exist in their own right and not as adjuncts. कि ये एक साइड बिजनेस है या ये भी कर लेते हैं. No. God and spirituality are the most important thing in life. For them, no sacrifice is, big enough. God and spirituality exist in their own right and not as adjuncts. And in practice, the lower in us must learn to exist for the higher, in order that the higher also may in us consciously exist for the lower, to draw it nearer to its own altitudes. Right? Even though it's 8:54. Yeah.
Anmol bhai, this definitely refers to every existence to be aware that there is a central being within them connected to the universal Lord, and to always operate from that conditioning, because he's saying that it is always to be in a spiritual awareness of the Lord. To always, he's putting the plank, saying that you have to exist in this universe aware that there is a God, which is the central being, and to be connected to it, which is the spiritual existence. That means that you are a representation of that. You are connected to the central being, and you are spiritual because you are one with him. So the bond of your existence with the Lord is the fundamental foundation of the Gita.
Yes. Spirituality or the God state, that is the fundamental conception of the Gita. It would have us live in God. बहुत important है. After the class, everybody can go through these important sentences or whatever. But this is one of the most important paragraphs in what we had read last year. Right?
One request.
Yeah, please.
Don't rush through this and
I'm
finish
not
off
rushing,
later.
but I mean, I
No,
just
not
want the next
rush in
time
the
say we
sense
can
that
start yoga and Sankhya.
no, that's what I was about to say, that since this is a summary chapter.
Anmol bhai, I also feel that there's a pressure in you. I can sense it. I completely agree that you're doing a review,
Okay.
but at the end of the day, I
Okay.
don't think so. If we are submitting to
See,
such
we will do
wisdom,
this. No, I agree.
The
I
reason
can
why
also sense that there is pressure on you.
नहीं.
I don't think so. We should get that pressure in.
Okay.
We are going as quickly, and I'm sure by either this session or next session, we'll
See,
finish
because
this.
otherwise, okay. Anyway.
Anmol bhai, the reason why I'm saying is, this being a summary chapter, let us leave with the summary and reconvene for the remaining chapters, and then you take up the thread, is my suggestion. But because this is a summary chapter, very key chapter, that's
Actually, in the next two chapters, na, Kurukshetra and
हाँ,
Man
कुछ
in the
ज्यादा
Battle.
है उस हाँ
नहीं. There's not really much I'm telling you. In the
Correct.
5th and 6th, he basically starkly presents existence as it is, giving the example even of the body.
Correct.
Your body is like a beleaguered city attacked by assailants, red
Yeah.
blood cells, white blood cells, वगैरह. He goes to that level. The eater eating is eaten. So
Eaten, yes,
basically
yes.
that Kurukshetra and life being a
Personal
battle and
Kurukshetra,
all, this is
yes.
the reality.
No,
And
so
only the Hindu religion which has had the courage to see truth unflinchingly, to not admire God just as Shiva or Durga, but also to admire him as Rudra and Kali. That is why the religion has survived, and that is why वो एक sentence है वो मैं पढ़ दूंगा. There is not much in the 5th and 6th to
no,
recap except this main idea.
No, correct. So
You
maybe
understand?
we can begin next time.
And in the wait a minute. And in the 7th one, the creed of the Aryan fighter, essentially it's about the Atma Vidya. कि the self is indestructible, and just as there is the childhood and the youth and the old age, similarly there is the taking up of the next body, etc. Basically, it is the teaching of the indestructibility of the self. One should not grieve because anybody has passed away, because essentially it is not them who has passed away, but like that.
We are entering
ऐसा
second
कुछ खास
chapter.
है नहीं है.
नहीं
The
नहीं, we are
main that is
entering.
there is this chapter. I intend to read the last two paras of this that we
हाँ.
still have time for. There is not really too much summary needed for the 5th, 6th, and 7th. That is what I'm trying to say.
No, I understood, but we enter second chapter with 7th.
Sorry?
We enter into the Gita second chapter
हाँ.
with the 7th chapter of this essays is what
माने मैं समझा नहीं.
we भगवत गीता का जो सेकंड चैप्टर है वो एसेंशियली 7th चैप्टर से यहाँ से 7th इसका जो
हाँ,
essays
correct.
we are
He
entering into
starts
the
referring
second.
to the verses from the 3rd chapter, wherein
हाँ.
he describes the condition of Arjuna and all that, the nervous breakdown and all that.
That
But
was the
yeah,
only
correct, you're
request I
saying.
had. Ki let us leave with the essence, the core.
Listen to me. That's what I'm saying.
हाँ.
I'm not also, I go so slowly. I'm telling you, 5th, 6th, and 7th May, there is not much to say in summary. Because Kurukshetra, Man and the Battle of Life, and this thing, Creed of the Aryan Fighter, it's उसमें है ही क्या? Life is a battle.
It will serve as a picking of the baton for
Yeah,
the
that's what I'm saying.
Sankhya is what I'm saying.
फिर वो उसको सांख्य के आइडियाज क्या हैं? The Sankhya idea is basically the idea of the indestructible self, the imperishable self, and that idea is expanded from 2.11 to 2.30, and then he gives the other idea. ठीक है, there's not much. Okay, we'll see about that. First, let me जो इसमें करना है, this वाले को तो हम करते हैं core of the teaching को.
Sure.
I might stretch till 9:15. As it is, we had started at 8:05 and missed the initial recording. So that's no big deal, right?
Yeah, we'll continue. Please
Okay.
read.
Yeah. So this is one of the most important paragraphs जो हमने बोला था. एक ये है, right? Yeah. Another thing which he clarifies here is that the Mahavakya is not Karmanyavadikaraste, like Bankim said, or some other Mahavakya according to the fancy of some commentator. The Mahavakya, he tells is those which I shared on the group, Sarvadharman Parityajya, that verse and the one verse before that he clarifies. These are two major misconceptions that he clears in this. Most important misconception again that he clears is that disinterested performance of duty, that is not what the Gita teaches. The Gita teaches you to live in the divine consciousness. And in order to live in the divine consciousness, even if you have to give up your normal so-called duty, व्यक्तित्व के निश्चय से कर्तव्य के कर्तव्य का निश्चय होगा. It is your identity which will determine your duty. If you identify yourself simply as a soldier or a father, son, this, that, whatever, so will be. But if you identify yourself as an eternal portion of the divine, whose main purpose, idea, function is to unite himself first with the divine concept, because without that he simply doesn't know what his Lord wants. Then yoga becomes the primary aim in life. So, it's the identity which determines the duty, like that, right? And then very beautifully he summarizes the 3 steps in the Gita. They are there in the last 2 paragraphs of this chapter. They we will read without missing anything. The argument of the Gita resolves itself into 3 great steps by which the action rises out of the human into the divine plane, leaving the bondage of the lower for the liberty of a higher law. First, by the renunciation of desire and a perfect equality, works have to be done as a sacrifice by man as the doer. A sacrifice to a deity who is the supreme and only self, though by him not yet realized in his own being. Man as the doer, one of the verses for that is 2.47. Karmanyavadhikaraste, ma phaleshu kadachana, ma karma phala heturbhuhu, mate sangostva karmani. Ki you have right only to the action, not to the fruits thereof. So just once more I'll read this. First, by the renunciation of desire and a perfect equality, works have to be done as a sacrifice by man as the doer. A sacrifice to a deity who is the supreme and only self, though by him not yet realized in his own being. This is the initial step. Secondly, not only the desire of the fruit, but the claim to be the doer of works has to be renounced in the realization of the self as the equal, the inactive, the immutable principle, and of all works as simply the operation of universal force of the nature soul, Prakriti, the unequal, active, mutable power. The corresponding words for this is 3.27. Prakritehe kriyamanani gunaihi karmani sarvashah. It is Prakriti through the gunas which is doing all the works. Ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. Deluded by egoism, man thinks that he is the doer. Right? Lastly, the Supreme Self has to be seen as the Supreme Purusha governing this Prakriti, of whom the soul in nature is a partial manifestation, by whom all works are directed in a perfect transcendence through nature. To him, love and adoration and the sacrifice of works have to be offered. The whole being has to be surrendered to him, and the whole consciousness raised up to dwell in this divine consciousness, so that the human soul may share in his divine transcendence of nature and of his works, and act in a perfect spiritual liberty. The first step is Karma Yoga. I mean, the first steps given in the previous paragraph, directly you can map them to these. So the first step is Karma Yoga, the selfless sacrifice of works. And here the Gita's insistence is on action. The second is Jnana Yoga, the self-realization and knowledge of the true nature of the self and the world. And here the insistence is on knowledge. But the sacrifice of works continues, and the path of works becomes one with, but does not disappear into the path of knowledge. The last step is Bhakti Yoga, adoration and seeking of the Supreme Self as the Divine Being, and here the insistence is on devotion, but the knowledge is not subordinated, only raised, vitalized, and fulfilled. And still the sacrifice of works continues. The double path becomes the triune way of knowledge, works, and devotion. And the fruit of the sacrifice, the one fruit still placed before the seeker, is attained, union with the divine being, and oneness with the supreme divine nature. This is why in Synthesis of Yoga, I've said this many times earlier, the yogas are given in this sequence. So the yoga of divine works, the yoga of knowledge, the yoga of devotion, and then finally he adds his own, the yoga of self-perfection, which is basically the transformation of human nature and to make everything perfect. Yeah. This is the base of that.
Well, by these last two paragraphs, in fact, a lot of things in this book, but moment you read and you reread, every time this two paragraph gives you, I just marvel at it. I don't know what happens. But
I mean, you can keep, even though after 2 years, 3 years, whatever, you can keep coming back to these two paragraphs. एक जो उसके पहले हमने पढ़ा था, the Gita would have us live in this, whereas
हाँ,
this,
अरे वो
एकदम
तो
आपका mind clear हो जाएगा. Any kind of opposition, in the
correct.
guise of elderliness or wisdom or this or that, nothing. You will cut through everything. God or spirituality is the main thing. All the rest is secondary.
Anmol bhai, why this is very important as well, because when we did the 65th and 66th verse, he says, "You are extremely dear to me." He emphasizes and says, never in the text till then, he says, "You're dear to me, dear. You are extremely dear." Priyojasi, you mentioned that term, right?
हाँ.
That you're extremely
भक्ता
dear to me.
स्तेति व मे प्रियाः. वो कब
Correct.
12.20 में आता है. In
Correct.
the 1865 and 66, he said, Priyosi, you are dear to me.
Privacy, correct. The reason is, if you look at the third point, the moment there is a change that the actual doer is the Lord. See, the moment he says, when you put your complete focus on me, I am the doer of everything, because this is step 3. If you go by sequence, Karam Yoga, Gyan Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. But for the devotee who says, my Lord, there is only one existence, there is you. So he says, if your starting point is that you are that true devotee, you are extremely dear to me because you are already starting with the foundation that it is the Lord who is the spiritual existence in everything and operating. And if that is your starting point, you will very quickly come to me because there is only me. So he is giving you that you have to focus on the central being. What these two verses emphasize is that your existence as an instrument is an instrument of the divine. You may have a spiritual existence and you may struggle with your ego consciousness, but the foundation of the spiritual existence is me, the Lord, the oneness. So the central being is always focused on oneness and is presiding from there, which is the Lord. The moment you identify that there is only one existence, only oneness, which is Him, the central being, then that is the foundation of these three steps that he's emphasizing. So I think it's beautiful that you are reading and revising this after we understood the basic understanding of what is a psychic being, a soul spark, and a central being.
Yeah. नहीं, but उसमें वही था, as I said, कि the last step is Bhakti Yoga, as he's saying here. And we already read like 8 verses of Bhakti Yoga because of the psychic being continuity. But you cannot get that Bhakti Yoga in its true. This is like, I'm telling you, these two paragraphs, they have to be followed rigorously. Even like last time, the last paragraph from the 5th chapter of the Mother. So that speaks of the last stage of this perfection will come. But that is the last stage. You cannot begin from there. That is the one we have to aim for. That is our dream. That is where we want to be, right? And reading it, following it will take us near to that. But what is said before that, if you want to be the beginning of the chapter, if you want to be a true doer of divine works, your first aim must be to be totally free from all desire and self-regarding ego. All your life must be an offering and a sacrifice to the divine. The chapter begins like that. So, one has to be mindful.
No, I get that. But
Yes.
Anmol, in the scriptures, when he's put a word, see, there is a condition. He's saying there is a category that is extremely dear to him.
Yes.
All the category, he says in the 12th chapter, all the verses, he says, if you exhibit this, you are dear to me. If you exhibit this, you are dear to me.
Yeah.
But there is a status. He is, because see, his words cannot be, if he says, I've given a promise, we have to believe he's given a promise. If he's saying you're extremely dear to me, we have to believe him because you said self-surrender and complete faith. So when he's saying
faith and
extremely
self-surrender.
dear to me,
Yes, correct.
when he's saying extremely dear to me, he's telling you, because you're my, you are mine. I am telling you that if this is your starting point, if you start and put your complete attention onto me, you know that there is only me. There is a central being which is presiding over everything, and you continue existing in that space and put your complete focus and attention, which is your 66th verse, then you will come to me, do not grieve. So, and if you see these three steps that you've said, the third step is identical to what you are finally eventually coming in the 65th and 66th verse. So he's saying you can follow this sequence, that's fine. But do you want to be extremely dear to me?
In the first step, if you see here carefully, what does he say? Renunciation of desire and a perfect equality, works have to be done, etc. A sacrifice to a deity who is the supreme and only self. So this idea is already there, that whatever I am doing, it is a sacrifice to that supreme and only self. Yat karoshi yadashnasi yat juhoshi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva madarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you enjoy, whatever you give in donation, sacrifice, this, that, whatever, do it as an offering to me. So even in the first step, that idea of whatever you are doing, do it as an offering and sacrifice to that supreme self. It is already there.
Right,
but in that, the sense of doership is there. Then the sense of doership is replaced. Yeah.
Correct. Here, the center of gravity is I, the devotee, I, the individual, I'm doing this task. So the center of gravity is still in the existence of an individual. The moment you go to the third step, he's saying that the central being is aware that there is only the universal oneness. So he's saying if you do the universal leap and say, my Lord, it's you, and that is the center of gravity. There is oneness which is engaging with everything. There is only you. And that is the center of gravity of everything that's happening in occurrence around me, with me. It's just him. It's oneness. So then you are extremely dear to me because you've understood that it's me. Your center of gravity is now shifted from you being the devotee aspiring to me to the fact that there is only the Lord. There is only Him. There is that central being in all of us, and that is your center
Ekam
of
eva dvitiyam
gravity.
Brahma,
Then
nanmyat
you are extremely dear to me. Because why is he using the word you're extremely dear to me? What is the, like, if we
because of
look
that
at it
mat
logically,
parama. ये तो धर्म्यामृतमिदं यथोक्तं पर्युपासते श्रद्दधाना मत परमा भक्तास्तेतीव मे प्रियाः. Because of that mat parama, because he has realized that the supreme goal of life is the divine and his whole orientation is towards that supreme. Because of that,
right, right.
Anmol, I have a question.
that is what brings in that complete self surrender. Yes, Sarita.
See, now we are doing this, remembering and doing everything as a sacrifice to Krishna, and we are doing the devotion. We are trying to remember this again and again, that I am not the doer of the work; it is He who's doing. But at the end of the day, that leap of faith will only come by His grace.
Yes, correct.
I mean,
Correct.
I can only do only till a
So what
certain.
happens is that the preparation is happening.
Yeah.
And when that thing is ready, so it's like, the chicken gets hatched or whatever inside that, and then it simply bursts like that. So, जैसे गीता इसमें आता है, a veil behind the heart, a lid over the mind divides us from the divine. Love and devotion rend the veil. So that, through that process of love and devotion, that inner paripakvata is increasing, that fire is increasing. And one day when the readiness will be there, so the veil will be removed, but the veil will be removed by the divine. So you are
Yeah.
right. It is removed by him, then he shows himself, and that too nobody can take him once and for all. It's a process. कोई भी बर्दाश्त नहीं कर सकता divine splendor को. It is a gradual this thing. Growing into the consciousness of the divine can only be gradual because it is too intense. मतलब आप बिल्कुल फूक जाएंगे जिसको बोलते हैं. You will be simply burnt if he shows him all at once, shows himself all at once.
Yeah, so I mean, we have to also invoke His grace all the time
Exactly.
to
Exactly.
help us. On this.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
also,
See, he says, do not grieve. Anmol, the fact, exactly what Sarita is saying, that you are still, he's saying that it is me playing as you, the aspirant, in this game, and you do not grieve. Do not grieve that you still haven't reached the stage. Do not grieve that you're not fully baked, but realize it is me. Your foundation, your center of gravity in your second by second existence is it's you, my Lord. In everything, it's you. So the fact it is not a separate entity which is aspiring for him. It is he who is existing. Because see, the most beautiful thing that you've read today in these two chapters, in these two paragraphs, is that the complete understanding of the Gita is that there is a spiritual existence. And the spiritual existence is of that oneness. So you are
No, mind
focusing,
you,
saying,
oneness and existence is fine, but these are still sort of neuter gender words. The Gita speaks about God, Shri Bhagavan, Purushottama. So it is not just an existence. You are not wrong. You are also right. It's speaking of an existent from whom your existence comes, right? And
Right,
it's
right.
not simply speaking of a oneness in that वो आजकल modern spirituality है बहुत diffused सा idea, उसको वो मतलब बोलेंगे the universe. Why can't you say the universal being? Are you totally unfamiliar with the ideas of the Gita? Nothing. It is just वो यूरोप से जो ideas आ रहे हैं, यूरोप के जो spiritual teachers हैं उनको copy करना है. They are, I'm telling, they are वो गीता से ही उठाते हैं, but they don't have that bhakti and they don't have that grounding. That is why they are limited in that idea. So
Right,
the Gita's
right.
ideas are much more complete. I have nothing against it. Whatever works for somebody, right? But it's not just existence and oneness. It is the existent and the one. It is Bhagavan, it is Purushottama. And in Indians के लिए वो natural है, but yes, just this needs to be clear. Vocabulary वगैरह भी, it needs to be clear. Yeah.
Correct,
yeah,
correct.
knowing something as a knowledge that yes, I am not the doer, or knowing that I have to do this, and actually realizing it within you, that is also a
Yes.
you have to work on that.
Yeah, correct. So it's 9:16. If I have 10 more minutes, I can, because as I said, 5th, 6th, 7th, 7th, there is nothing too much to summarize. I leave it, मतलब I seek the approval कि मैं क्या करूँ, अभी करूँ या I leave it to next time.
Anmol, let's do it next time.
It's been too heavy this session already.
Yeah,
It's
let
not-
this, because what we've
not-
read is beautiful. I mean, these two paragraphs that you've
Right.
rewritten, and now after the journey of going through the psychic being, the psychic entity, and the central being, the fact that he puts in these as aspects that can be taken as just like he's given a step 1, a step 2, and a step 3. So he here also in these 2 paragraphs, he's given 3 steps. And as we all agree that, look, there is no aspect of us becoming realized because we've mentally
Then
understood the concept.
let's
It's
do
like
one
that we
thing.
agree.
Somebody can just read these 2 paragraphs and we'll close the session with that. Somebody else. Who would like to read? Anybody. Open to anybody. Or 2 people can read one para, next para, like that.
I can read one.
Okay, Sarita, just read the second last.
The argument, Mahasena.
The argument, yes.
The argument of the Gita resolves itself into 3 great steps by which action rises out of the human into the divine plane, leaving the bondage of the lower for the liberty of a higher law. First, by the renunciation of desire, and a perfect equality works have to be done as a sacrifice by man as the doer, a sacrifice to a deity who is the supreme and only self, though by him not yet realized in his own being. This is the initial step. Secondly, not only the desire of the fruit, but the claim to be the doer of the works has to be renounced in the realization of the self as the equal, the inactive, the immutable principle, and of all works as simply the operation of the universal force of the nature soul, Prakriti, the unequal, active, mutable power. Self as an equal का क्या meaning होगा?
Where is it?
Realization of the self as the equal.
Samam Brahma, that which is equal behind everything. Samoham sarva bhuteshu, I am equal to all beings. Krishna says na in the 8th or 9th chapter. So that self which is equal to everything, that impartial thing.
Okay. Lastly, the supreme self has to be seen as the supreme Purusha governing this Prakriti, of whom the soul in nature is a partial manifestation, by whom all works are directed in a perfect transcendence through nature. To him, love and adoration and the sacrifice of works have to be offered. The whole being has to be surrendered to him, and the whole consciousness raised up to dwell in this divine consciousness, so that the human soul may share in his divine transcendence of nature and of his works and act in a perfect spiritual liberty.
Anybody else would like to read? Maya, would you like to read? Or anybody? Atmadeep? Rai Kishore? Anybody? Dhaval bhai, maybe you read then, nobody's reading. Dhaval bhai? Am I audible? Oh. Damn.
I think once he comes back, we should start from the beginning. This paragraph, if you could read the second paragraph from the beginning, because there's an interruption.
Yeah, okay. Anmol, you're on mute.
I am sorry, my internet had gone. So what do? We again read the 2 or just one? What do we do?
We only lost the second paragraph. The first one, the recording was on.
Okay, so Maya, can you just end this session with the reading of this last paragraph?
Sure. Do you have to share your screen again?
Yes, I have to. 1 second. Yeah. The first step is Karma Yoga.
The first step is Karma Yoga, the selfless sacrifice of works. And here the Gita's insistence is on action. The second is Jnana Yoga, the self-realization and knowledge of the true nature of the self and the world. And here the insistence is on knowledge, but the sacrifice of work continues, and the path of works becomes one with, but does not disappear into, the path of knowledge. The last step is Bhakti Yoga, adoration and seeking of the Supreme Self as the Divine Being. And here the insistence is on devotion. But the knowledge is not subordinated, only raised, vitalized, and fulfilled. And still the sacrifice of work continues. The double path becomes the triune way of knowledge, works, and devotion. And the fruit of the sacrifice, the one fruit still placed before the seeker, is attained, union with the divine being, and oneness with the supreme divine nature.
Yeah. Shall we close with silence for a minute or so?
Anmol, had a question.
Please go ahead.
What does one mean when you say a person's third eye is opened?
Oh, the Ajna
Not
Chakra, na? The
Huh.
center here, when
Huh.
that has become fully activated and open, that is what it means.
So does that mean that it has anything to do with the psychic being?
See, anything in your system will have something to do with the psychic being, because the psychic being is the true being here in the human system, right? So anything in your system which is happening, it will have something. But if you ask that way, then the center opens when you
What
concentrate.
happens? I mean, what happens when somebody says ki my third eye is open?
This is the center of knowledge and will. So basically your knowledge will start becoming more and more clear, and your will become very strong and effective.
Okay, so clarity will come. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Shall we close with silence?